Hey guys, today I'll be showing another restoration project I've been working on, and this video is for Doug, who owns this awesome little Moog Prodigy. So just going to go over it for you, Doug, show you things functioning. For anybody else that's curious, feel free to watch. I worked a little bit backwards on this one. So I got this one in, I did a restoration on it, but I started with the actual chassis first. And this one actually had been restained before, and it was real ugly. It was like real blotchy. It wasn't real well done. So actually I started by just sanding out the wood and restaining it and then repolyurethaning it. Probably put about 7 coats of urethane on it. And you can see just how great this looks. It's got a nice semi-gloss finish. But you can also see all this beautiful wood grain that comes through. And this is the original wood. This is not new wood. And you can just see how great it looks. You can see how it's almost like a glass finish. It's real smooth. And just turned out real great. I'm real proud of this wood on this thing. But you can also see too, I redid the front here as well. And you can also see right here some beautiful wood grain came through when I was redoing this. It has this really beautiful wood grain. And I'll take you on around this way here. So this is this side here. And you had to excuse the noises next door. They're working on the building over there. But actually I ended up having to redo this one twice. I got it all done. I'm doing experimenting every time I do this because I don't claim to be a woodworker at all. And I've done a few mini Moogs and a few other synths over the years as far as staining and polyurethaning and getting everything fixed up. But every time I try some little different method. And this time I tried something different and by hanging these. So I actually had them off the chassis. I built a bracket to hang them on. Because what makes these difficult, these particular side panels, is you actually have to not only work on the outside, but you have to work in this inner lip right here as well. So I actually had to stain and polyurethane all that as well. And what I ended up doing was I wasn't paying enough attention because my lighting kind of sucked the way I was doing this. And I had a big nasty run right in here. And after I didn't notice it to about 3 or 4 layers in, and so it was already way too late. I couldn't sand it down. I couldn't get anything to look right. So I ended up just taking it all the way back down, restaining it, and then repolyurethane again. And now you can see it looks real smooth. There's nothing ugly about that at all. So it's real smooth, just like the other side. Now this side here doesn't have quite the nice wood grain you see on the other one, but it's not bad. It's actually really nice. And what I really like about it too is that now on the top side you can see this wood grain that comes through on the top. Now this one has been repaired before, and it had a chunk evidently taken out of it at some point, and somebody put putty in it. So I worked really hard trying to make sure this putty would kind of look natural, kind of like it's just a darker spot in the wood, and I think I pulled it off pretty good. It looks pretty good. Sometimes you just have to work with what you got, and this is one of those cases. So did that, and just turned out really good. Like I said, I'm real proud of how this wood turned out. It's got a really nice gloss to it. It's a semi-gloss, so it's not super glossy. It's just got a nice natural look to it. And so anyways, that's what I did. Cleaned the chassis up, of course. All the knobs, washed them, switches, covers, everything. Cleaned the LHC panel real good. Just did my usual stuff I do to these things. But the only modification I did, and I'll bring this up here, because I talk about this every once in a while when I get a Prodigy. But this is a late unit. And the later units had the CV in and outs. Other units, earlier ones, just had the audio output only, so you didn't have all this. Well, when they did this, they actually mislabeled one of these, and it's called keyboard in-out. So it actually is not a input at all. It's an output only from factory. So even though it says in-out, it's not right. That's only an output. And so you have the oscillator input, which you can use, but that becomes a problem, especially in the way Doug wants to use this. He wants to use it with a controller. So he's going to primarily be using a MIDI to CV converter of some sort. And so the way this works, guys, I know I explain this quite often, but in theory, what you have your keyboard circuit, which generates a CV voltage based off what keys hit. And then when you let off a note, there's a circuit in there that actually isolates itself, and it has a capacitor. And so it keeps that capacitor charged at the given voltage of the key you hit, is how that works. And In most cases, what happens in the old analog synths is those circuits are not really that tight in tolerance, and they just naturally bleed. So if you use the oscillator input, it's actually summed to your keyboard CV, internal keyboard CV voltage. And so although you have a voltage here that might be stable, the keyboard voltage is going to drift, so you just slowly lose tuning. And so in this case, for example, if you were using a Kenton kit, which I'll be demoing later on this video, if you have a Kenton kit plugged in and it's a C note reference, so if you have to hit the C note here and then set up your range and scaling, but you'd notice after a period of time it would just start losing its tuning, and you'd have to keep coming over here and hitting a C note reference to bring that thing back in tune, and it would just continue to drift out. And this is usually pretty fast. It usually only holds memory for like maybe a couple of minutes at the most, and that's on a good day. That's on a good unit. So that's a problem. And so by eliminating the use of the oscillator in jack, now you use the keyboard input, and now you're actually feeding that voltage into the circuitry of the keyboard, so you don't have that problem. It's always being activated by the external CV, so you never have a bleed off. So it's really handy. And at the same time, it frees up the oscillator in jack, so you can still process the oscillators with external modulation sources, sequencers, that kind of stuff. So you can still have the oscillators running stuff while you're still tracking with the MIDI. So it's really cool. That's a really nice feature now. And I didn't worry about putting a keyboard output. So this is just strictly a keyboard input now. And I have to replace the jack because it's a shunt jack. It's a TS tip sleeve with a shunt, and the shunt's actually what makes and breaks a circuit when you plug something in. So it actually has to physically make and break a connection inside there, and so I had to change the jack to a shunt style TS jack. So that now works in the way that you'll need it to work, and you won't have to worry about the bleed offs and all the tuning problems that you would have. Something else I did this unit too I forgot to mention was actually it's a 220 volt model, so it's actually an export model. And so I was able to find a transformer from my good friend Don Bessiker. So Don, shout out to you, who actually worked at Moog back in the day, and he had a transformer that was Newell stock for this thing. So I was able to put a Newell stock transformer in it for 120 volts and got this guy running on 120 volts. So no converters, nothing is needed. And really I like the export model better because it actually has an IAC jack here for the plug, where the others just have a cord connected into them. So it's actually kind of a nice feature. I wish they all had that, honestly. But anyways, with that said, you can just see kind of how clean this thing is now, how good that wood looks down the sides, and real proud of that woodwork, like I say. But I'm also just proud of this whole unit. It works really well. It plays great. And I think you're going to be really happy with it here, Doug. Alright guys, I'm going to go over the function of this unit now. And I'm going to just do it like I typically do. We'll start with the oscillator section, then the filter contour section, and the modulation section, so you can hear all parts of this thing and how well it works. So anyways, right now both oscillators are on, to show you how great they sound together and how accurate they are and uniform together. See how great they sound together. They're real uniform. Now what I'm going to actually do is I'll just go through oscillator 1 first. We've got oscillator 2 turned down. So as you've heard your footages work, but I'll just go through it manually so you can hear it by itself. So the first oscillator is actually where you had a problem as well. The problem it had was that you had a resistor out of tolerance. So it would be fine in 32 and 8, but if you went to 16 footage, it was out of tune. And Moog had used a matched set of resistors right here, and one of those had drifted out of tolerance, so they wasn't matched anymore, so I had to put a matched set back in it. So I took care of that. But anyways, you can hear, here's 32, 16, and 8. And of course your waveform, it has a sawtooth, triangular, and then a pulse wave. As you can hear, the volume control is real clean as well. I flushed and lubed all the pots, so they have a really good feel to them now. So that was oscillator 1. Here's oscillator 2. So as you can hear, the unison mode's real clean as well. That's your volume control you just heard. So now we'll actually go through, I'll show you the oscillator sync right quick. So if we select the oscillator sync on, we'll put them both on, this has actually got a 50% duty square wave for oscillator 2, but if we put that on square wave and then put this on pulse, put that on. Also had to replace your pitch wheel pod as well. It was worn out and you could just bump it and it would knock tuning out even if I dead zoned it. So that was a problem you had. So you've heard your oscillator sync works, your 2 oscillators. I also showed you that the modulation source works for the oscillator. So your modulation section is pretty simple. It's a sawtooth, or it's a triangular wave and a square wave with a rate, and it goes up to 30 Hertz. So as you can hear, see how your mod rate works there. And so that's your oscillator section, your modulation section really. I decided to go over that. Now I'll show you that your filter works correctly. So we'll go here and we'll turn the filter up and make it self-oscillate. So turn one oscillator so I can reference frequency. So here's your oscillator by itself. That's just your filter you're hearing there. We can make it modulate. We can also put some glide on that as well. So that's your filter tracking the keyboard. We can also take the filter tracking off. So with this switch here, the filter keyboard tracking. So now it's just going to be a fixed frequency. We can do half tracking. And that's like the 2 switches on the Mini Moog where you have 1 and 2 for the keyboard tracking. And then you got full tracking. As you can hear. We'll combine that with the oscillators. You can hear that sounds with the oscillators engaged. Now I'll show you that your contour works for your filter. So you got a contour mount. We're going to set this thing for 0 on everything, so the filter is just going to be a pop when I turn up the contour. We got a decay time. Excuse the clock over there. It's actually just letting me know it's time to go home. But you can hear your decay time here. You've also got your attack time. And then you've got your sustain level. So as you can hear, that's your filter. Excuse me. So that's your filter contour there, and we can turn that back down so it has 0. So now we'll actually open that filter back up, turn the oscillators back on, and now you can hear that contour shaping that filter. So that's your filter contour, and just mixed with the oscillators. Now I'm going to open that filter all the way up. And I'll show you that your loudness contour works here as well. So we'll turn it down to where it's just a click. And here's just a click. We'll play the decay time. So there's your decay release time there. Here you go all the way out, off a note. You've got your attack time. A little bit of decay release to get something like that. You've also got your sustain level. So just like the filter, this sets your. This allows you to get those percussive kind of sounds from your envelope. And you hear it keeps it from dying all the way out when I have a decay set. And then you've got a release switch up here, and this works like the decay switch on the Mini Moog on the LHC. It allows you to turn off the decay. So you can see we can have just note on off versus so that's your contour section, your filter section, and your oscillator section. And then also you can hear the glide rate on the oscillators as well. So anyways, as you can hear, this thing works really great for you, Doug, and just want to take a minute and go over it for you to show everything's functioning. For anybody else that watches, appreciate you guys watching. And now I'm actually going to make a video of this thing being controlled by a Kenton box so you guys can actually see how this modification works on the back. But anyways, guys, as always, appreciate it, and we'll make that video here next for you. So now what I'm going to actually show you is how this thing works with the external CV source into that keyboard input that I've added, that I mentioned earlier in the video. So this is the Kenton MK2 Pro Solo, which I use on mini Moogs and all kind of stuff. It's a really good little box. And I've just got it MIDI to this keyboard, and I've got it plugged in. I'll take you around back here and show you. So I've got the keyboard input here now, and I've got the S-Trig input. And so I'll show you just how well this thing tracks and how well it sounds. So we'll actually start at a really low octave here, one oscillator. We'll go up on the scale of the keyboard. Of course, you can go even lower. It's just a click. But anyways, just want to take a few minutes to show you that as well and how that works. But once again, guys, as always, I appreciate you guys watching my videos, and there'll be more to come here very soon. Take care.